Good morning, everyone. The webinar is going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. So we're just going to wait for a couple of minutes for everyone to turn up. So we're expecting quite a few people this morning. So we will get started.
Gotta let everyone in first. I just realized. Okay, I'm doing it now.
Okay. A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's webinar on Dedicated Locator. We're going to get going in just a couple of minutes. We have quite a few people registered today and people are still filing in. So we will get going as soon as we have a few more people. So we're just going to stand by just for a couple more moments. Good morning. We still have a number of people joining into this morning's webinar, so we're just going to wait on just a couple more minutes to try and get as many people logged on as possible, and then we're going to get going with this morning's webinar. So we still have quite a few people entering in, so just a moment longer, and then we will get going. Okay, so we're going to get going for this morning's webinar. Good morning and welcome. We're going to be talking about a recent regulation regarding the non-application of Section 7 of our Act, and the Act being the Ontario Underground Infrastructure Notification System Act, with Section 7 referring to the dedicated locator. My name is Adam Morden. I'm the Director of Member Services here at Ontario One Call. And in this morning's webinar, we're going to be talking about this regulation, talking about how and where this regulation would take effect, who it applies to, and also give some examples of where it can be used. We're also going to then talk about where this might be a good opportunity and other areas where you might want to consider continuing to use the dedicated locator. And at the end of this session, we are going to have a Q&A session. So just before we get into the main information, just to let you know, this session is being recorded and it will be made available online after. So if you're unable to stay for the entirety of the webinar, then you will be able to catch up on it at a later date. So we are here to obviously have a presentation about the regulation, but there will be an opportunity for everyone on here to ask questions, and we do encourage that. If a question does come to mind, then it's likely something that someone else is also thinking about, but may not be thinking about asking. So if you do have any questions, please do submit them, and then we will try and answer as many as possible at the end of the webinar. You have two ways in which you can submit these questions. Firstly, there is the Q&A function built within Teams. So you would select that and write your question in, and the team members will receive that on this end. And then those team members will ask them to me at the conclusion of the presentation. If you feel that you actually want to ask it verbally, it'll be easier to communicate the question verbally, then at the end you can also raise your hand and one of the team members will unmute you and then ask you to ask your question verbally in front of everyone. Finally, your feedback is welcomed. Sometimes people do try and put some feedback in the Q&A. It's only a small section, so it's not the best place to put that. So if you do have feedback on this regulation, if you think it's a positive regulation, or if it's not necessarily going to answer the areas in which you were looking for improvement with DL, then please do let us know. Send that feedback to us, to the DL team. You can email that to dl@ontarioonecall.ca. We really do welcome all feedback on this to continue going forward. So why are we here? In 2022, dedicated locator was introduced into the Act, and part of that was the mandated use of dedicated locator for the designated broadband projects. So if there was a government-funded ISP for expansion of works, then that would fall into this mandate. And it was something that obviously came into force back in 2022 when the legislative changes received royal assent. So at the beginning, there were some of the ISPs that faced some issues with using dedicated locator. This is something that over time we have solved many of those issues, and we are seeing many people use dedicated locator and reaping the rewards and successes of using the model. However, obviously, there was some feedback that there needed to be some flexibility, and our ministry then held consultations with stakeholders within the industry to understand what flexibility was required in order to facilitate the timely goal of installing these designated broadband projects. From that consultation came this regulation from our ministry. Now, we're going to focus on the central 4 paragraphs here. These are the key 4 points within this regulation. It's not a very large regulation or a complicated one, but certainly in our preliminary discussions or early discussions since the regulation took effect, we have had a number of misunderstandings as to who it applies to, who's able to put this option into effect and the such. So I'm just going to talk through this one stage at a time and try and give some examples before we actually go through some examples that the industry may see. So this regulation is intended for the project owners. And certainly when we look at paragraphs 1 and 2, we're looking at the criteria that's required for this option of non-application to be applicable to a project owner's project. Paragraph 1 talks about the project must be in a local municipality. So the project must be in part or entirely within a local municipality that has a population of less than 100,000 people. Now, this is reported by Stats Canada from the most recent official census, and you can find that information on the Stats Canada website. So a municipality that has less than 100,000 people, or it could be in a municipality in Northern Ontario, and those municipalities are defined within our Act. So paragraph 1, the first set of criteria is that the project must be in a municipality of less than 100,000, either part of or entirely, or it must be taking place in the north. If even one of those or both of those are true, then we go on to paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 talks about how a locator cannot have been agreed upon between the project owner and the owners of the underground infrastructure. If a locator has been agreed upon, then this project is no longer an option for the usage of the public stream as opposed to dedicated locator. However, if we are in a municipality of less than 100,000 or in the north, and a locator has not been agreed upon, then the option to use the public stream rather than the mandated use of dedicated locator now becomes possible for the project owner. And now we're going to look at paragraphs 3 and 4, which is if what paragraphs 1 and 2 are true, this is how you go about using it. Paragraph 3 refers to a situation in which a 90-day notice has not been submitted to Ontario One Call for the use of dedicated locator. So if you as a project owner have not provided a 90-day notice to Ontario One Call, then you must give at least 90 days notice from the time of when the expected commencement of the project it will be, that you wish to use this option and submit locates through the public stream. That notice takes place in a form, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Paragraph 4 talks about if you have submitted a 90-day notice. If you have submitted a 90-day notice, then you must notify Ontario One Call, but also you must notify all of those affected members that were identified as being in the project area when the 90-day notice was processed by the dedicated locator team here at Ontario One Call. So you must notify Ontario One Call and also all of those affected members that you intend on using the public stream. So as long as paragraphs 1 and 2 are true, then you would follow 3 and 4 should you wish to use the option of non-application, i.e. you wish to use the public stream rather than the mandated use of dedicated locator. So we're going to go through a couple of different examples of before we go there, I do want to just point out that this, as I say, is a regulation where the project owner is deciding if they wish to use dedicated locator or if they wish to pursue the option to use the public stream if the criteria is fulfilled. This is not something that owners of underground infrastructure are able to dictate, and certainly we have seen that misunderstanding already. If the project owner wishes to use dedicated locator, then 7.7 A and B, which is up on the screen now, the requirements to agree upon a locator and provide mapping and anything else required, those requirements are still in force. So it's not something that the underground infrastructure owner would be looking to use this option. This option is for the project owner. Now, some examples of what a project, whether it would or would not fall under this regulation. So we're going to take West Perth to begin with. At the last census, the population was less than 100,000. It's not in the north, but we've already got one part of paragraph 1 fulfilled. So paragraph 1 is okay. In this situation, you have agreed upon a DLSP. So paragraph 2 is not true. That means that this project would not fall under the requirements of this regulation. However, if we take West Perth again, the population is the same. It hasn't moved up north, but this time you have not agreed upon a locator. Now you've fulfilled the criteria in paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. Now this project does fall under the requirements of the regulation and can use the option to notify Ontario One Call that the project will be going through the public stream. If we take a scenario where you're in two different municipalities, Halton Hills under 100,000 and Oakville has more than 100,000 people. Well, part of the project is in a local municipality with less than 100,000. So that part of paragraph 1 is true. It's not in the north, but again, we've got the population section. In this situation, we have not agreed upon a locator. So again, this project would fall under the requirements of the regulation. Let's take St. Catherine's. Well, the population is greater than 100,000. It doesn't qualify there, and it's not in the north. So at this point, because paragraph 1 has not been fulfilled, it doesn't actually matter whether there is a DLSP agreed or not. This project would not fall under the option to use the public stream. And finally, Temiskaming Shores, less than 100,000, and it is in the north as well. So we've got both parts of paragraph 1. No DLSP has been agreed upon, so you've got paragraph 2. This project would also qualify under the regulation to use the public stream. So how do you go about notifying Ontario One Call if you're a project owner and you wish to utilize this option? Well, firstly, at least 90 days before the project starts, reach out to the dedicated locator team here at Ontario One Call. You would start that conversation with them. They're able to provide you with the notice that you would have to send back to us. It's a simple notice that talks about the location, who you are, and the criteria under which you believe you would fall under this option and under this regulation to be able to utilize the public stream. You would then send that back to the DL team here at Ontario One Call. Now, we're not in the process of applying or approving these notices, but rather we will have a look and we're just going to validate that what you are seeing is what we are seeing. And we're just doing that to make sure that we're setting the industry up for success and making sure that people aren't reviewing certain population numbers that may not be the official ones, because there is an awful lot of data out there on the internet that is not necessarily accurate. So we would have a look through that and just confirm if, yes, we agree with what you've put down in the notice, then after the notice period, you will be able to submit locates through the standard stream. Or if we see something different, we'd come back and we'd say, we believe that this project is still mandated, but certainly we're happy to have those conversations going forward. So before you go about submitting this notice, we do have a number of resources available. And these are really important because certainly making the choice to use this option or not is going to be a really important choice. So we've got the dedicated locator team here at Ontario One Call. This team is a fantastic team. They have daily conversations with a wide variety of stakeholders. They're talking to project owners, owners of underground infrastructure, DLSPs, excavators on a daily basis. They may be able to give you some more context about what is happening in the area where your project is happening. And they may be able to help guide you in making the decision whether this option is the right option to make. We also have some dedicated locator best practices, and you can either find those on our website or again, our team will be able to provide those to you. And that's not just limited to this particular resource, but other areas of dedicated locator as well, which can help you with your decision making. And finally, we have a number of one-on-one meetings with industry stakeholders on a regular occasion, but we can set up other meetings. If you feel that you need to discuss this further, please reach out to us. Just like this webinar, we're more than happy to have those conversations. We're quite eager to be able to impart our knowledge because there is an awful lot of benefits of dedicated locator that certain people haven't been able to see. But we can give you the feedback that we've received from the industry as to what works and where it works. And if you're looking to set up dedicated locator, how to best go about that to set yourself up for success. So we're happy to have those meetings at any time. If you want to set up any one-on-one meetings, please do reach out to the dedicated locator team and we will set something up. So just to summarize this, again, some key points to take away. This is an option for some of the designated broadband projects that are going on out there, but it doesn't change the requirements of the underground infrastructure owner. This is for the project owner and for their decision in how they proceed forward with their project. This may not be the right option for all projects. So this is something that, again, utilize the resources at Ontario One Call. We can help talk through and give you what we have heard is happening in the industry. Certainly, we know that the timelines in the industry right now are quite tight, and DL has absolutely shown the benefit in the delivery timelines from those who have been able to use it. We've heard that benefit spoken about time and time again, and quite significant benefits to ensuring that the projects continue happening at the pace that the project owner needs. And certainly fiber to the home projects happen at a very rapid pace that at times the public stream cannot keep up with. So when you're looking at these large and rapid projects, dedicated locator has been at the forefront of delivering the larger scale projects. And this year, I would say that some of the feedback is that in the public stream, we have heard that, yes, the delivery timelines have been very good. There are a few things that we do need to take into consideration with that. Typically, year on year, we see an increase in the number of requests coming into Ontario One Call. Historically, it's about an 8% increase year on year. However, heading into 2024, there's been a decrease. In some regions, that decrease has been quite significant. So that has helped us lower the burden on the public locate stream. As such, we've seen some really great delivery timelines. We've also removed somewhere between 5 and 10% of the most complicated locates in terms of these, specifically the broadband projects, some way highway reconstruction projects, the ones that burden the locators more and slow things down. Those have been removed and put into DL for the most part. So when we're looking at that, that's also aided the public stream locates to be in a more timely fashion, delivered in a more timely fashion. So when we look at this, there are reasons as to why heading into 2024, with the lower demand on the locates, and also the fact that we're improving by taking away the more complex ones, that we would see an improvement on the delivery timelines. Now, some things that we've been told by the industry is that a number of projects late in 2023 and heading into 2024 were either put on pause or they were cancelled altogether. And this was partially down to interest rates being high and a lot of these construction works being done on loans. So we've been told by a couple of different entities that 4% Bank of Canada rate is around the sweet spot, whether it's considered to go forward with the projects or whether to put them on pause or shelve them altogether. So obviously we're now down at 3.75%, and there is the possibility that it will continue to go down. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the beginning of next dig season is going to look like, but certainly some of the feedback that we've had suggests that it could actually be quite a busy dig season coming up. If that is the case, and some of the more cumbersome locate projects come out of a dedicated locator, there is a chance that the delivery timelines in the public stream may not be what's required from day one. So that's something that, as a project owner, you should be looking at, because chasing up after those or not being able to get started and continuing in the project plan that you have, that can really disrupt some of these projects, and we really don't have a lot of time to get these designated projects completed. But certainly, Ontario One Call wants to help you get to that completion date. So reach out to us, talk to the DL team, talk to us. We will be able to tell you what we're hearing from the industry. We will be able to assist you and help you in your decision making to see what the right option would be for your projects, whether that be the public stream or whether it be dedicated locator. But certainly I would say that looking at next year, we know the benefits of dedicated locator. We're unsure about where the public stream locates will be. So that's something that is definitely worth a discussion going into next year. So that's the presentation on what the regulation is, where it might apply, and just a few of the key points to take away and discuss on your end, because this is a rather large decision to make. But certainly at this point, I'd like to hand it over to the team if there are any questions. But before I do, I would just like to let you know we do have our contact details up on the screen. Mine is on the left, and then the DL team is just there on the right. But I'll hand it over to Cheryl if we have any questions available.
Hi there. Thank you so much, Adam. We do have some questions. So our very first one here is, how is this regulation better or more effective than allowing a DL project to proceed without 100% of utilities on board?
Absolutely. So there are two different scenarios that we're trying to face right now. And certainly the 100% requirement is something that's an ongoing discussion. I would say that it shouldn't be considered whether it's better or not. They're two different items that we're trying to tackle. What this does do is, in certain circumstances where the public stream may be sufficient in getting a project completed, it gives some flexibility to those ISPs to be able to complete their projects in a timely fashion. But it also means that should a project owner wish to continue with dedicated locator, which is something that we've heard from many of the ISPs, then that is available to continue. And certainly at Ontario One Call's end, we've been building our tools to tackle this 100% agreement scenario that we're facing. And we've been getting more and more people on board and in a position where they're able to agree upon and put everything into place in a timely fashion, which has been a bit of a struggle because this is something new to many people. And whether it's to discover the training requirements or the agreement requirements on the owner of underground infrastructure's end, or it's something else, it's taken a bit of time, but we've dedicated our team to work with them and get them into a position that going forward, it shouldn't be an issue anymore. Doesn't mean that we've solved that issue. That is something that we still need to hit or take on head on. And it is something that we continue talking about. But I see them as two separate issues. And this one solves the flexibility issue.
Thank you very much, Adam. And then just a reminder, anyone who wants to voice their question out loud, you can have your hand raised by hitting the raise button, and we will unmute you to read your question out loud yourselves. We have another question up here. Was the additional impact this will have on the public LSPs who are not sized for an influx of project tickets considered? And will the standard 5 days fines apply to these tickets?
So that's a very good question. Obviously, a lot of this would have been taken into account during the consultation phase with our ministry, certainly. And in terms of the large influx and a compliance-related question, I'm not going to answer that today. I think it would be inappropriate for me to speak for our compliance department. But certainly, if you do wish to ask that question, I do encourage you to reach out to our compliance department and ask them directly. I think that they are the right people to have that conversation with, and they'll be able to give you some more context. So apologies, I'm not answering that one directly. It's just not my area to really delve into.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next one here. If a project contains any areas under the 100,000 population, then the entire project can be submitted through the public, even if the project area contains areas that are over 100,000.
Yeah, so there was this scenario where we talked about Halton Hills and Oakville, and certainly they had under and over 100,000. If it's the same project, but it crosses the boundary between the two municipalities, because part of the project is in a municipality that has less than 100,000, then yes, it would fall under the option to use the public stream. Again, as long as you fulfill paragraphs 3 and 4 of notifying the appropriate parties in the appropriate timelines, then yes, this would be available for this option.
Thank you very much, Adam. Okay, we do have two hands raised, so we're going to start with the first one. We're going to get Mo to ask a question out loud.
Thank you for this presentation, Adam. I guess it was really helpful to understand more about this legislation. And we are already in touch with the Ontario One Call team. Work for Toronto Transit Commission, and we have our rail infrastructure that's kind of buried there. So that's where I mainly deal with. So I have two questions. Anyway, I put that as asked as a text also. So first question was, is it only applicable for broadband projects? What about say Toronto Water or some other project owners? So this one question. The second one is, it's as you mentioned in your presentation, it's mainly responsibility of project owners to hire the DL. So if and obviously they are supposed to hire qualified DLs. If the DL is not qualified to do what they're supposed to do, what happens in that case?
Okay, so we'll take the first question. So the reason that this is focused on designated broadband is because if you remember, I think on about slide 3, I showed you the first part of section 7 of our act, and it talks about the mandated use of dedicated locator. Now, the only area that's really dedicated today is the broadband or designated broadband projects. The other areas are if the minister deems or if the project owner wishes to use dedicated locators. So it only applies to designated broadband projects because those are the ones that are required to use dedicated locator. So that's why this regulation applies to them. So going forward with your second one, absolutely there's a conversation to be had about the qualified locators, and that's something that we continue to have in the industry. And certainly we see a number of locators that are considered to be qualified under the owner of underground infrastructure. There is no formal qualification to obtain in order to be considered a DLSP or a qualified DLSP. That's more along the lines of what are you looking for as an owner of underground infrastructure in terms of requirements from those locators and perhaps reporting and auditing from the locating companies. So those would be some things that you would put into your agreements and have early discussions with the project owner to put into place. But certainly, as I say, there's no formal qualification at this time for a locator to be considered qualified. So it is something that comes down to the discussions and agreement between the parties.
So that's my point. So if project owner has a DL, they can do, okay, it's electrical or it's a communication, they can do the scan, they have all those equipment to see. For underground structures, we need professional engineers to look at those drawings to come up with their clearance of those. That's what the issue is. So how we deal with this situation? The DL does not have those people who can work on those drawings. If DL has those, so we really don't have an issue, but that's what we are dealing with. So
Yeah, so
that's where our responsibility comes in. So we already got one penalty on one of those because we did not have an agreement with the project owner. So how could we have an agreement with someone, project owner, if they don't have any qualified person to do the job?
yeah, absolutely. And Mo, I think we've had a number of discussions between yourselves and on our end. And certainly, I don't want to go into the specifics. So I don't think it'd be appropriate in this forum to do that. But certainly, you're in a position where you can assist in being available in terms of if there are certain steps that you need to take to assist the DLSP to complete the locates, then you can be there and complete that. But certainly, I don't really want to go into too many specifics. Your scenario is quite an individual one here, so this is something that I think is best taken offline. Otherwise, we could be here for the rest of the hour just discussing this particular case. But certainly, I think there's definitely conversations that we have had in the past and can continue to have, and I welcome having that conversation with you.
Thank you, thank you. And so far, there's a lot of cooperation from your end. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have another hand raised, so I'll hand that over.
Hi there. Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of quick questions. For very large designated broadband projects over 1,000 kilometers, how the dedicated accounts will be split under different municipalities? Basically, how many dedicated accounts we are looking at? And the other quick question is how we can see the underground infrastructure owners in advance, just to have an idea how many there will be in the different areas, because some areas they don't have almost anything, some have more.
Yeah, absolutely. So two great questions. And I would say that firstly, again, I don't really want to get into too many specifics today because somebody may take an answer away that isn't applicable to themselves. But what I would say that if you have questions about specific projects, and it sounds like this would be one of the projects that would really benefit time-wise and the like, and control-wise from dedicated locator, have that conversation with the DL team. They will be able to tell you who's in the area. They would be able to give you some contacts so we can start those preliminary discussions. One thing that I do tell a lot of people is we don't want to start discussions from when the 90-day notice is submitted. If you are able to, let's start the discussions earlier. Let's set you up for success before you've even submitted that 90-day notice, so that once that 90-day notice is submitted, you're ready to get going and the timelines are absolutely achievable for all stakeholders. The greater period of time that you can give everyone, obviously, the greater opportunity for success. Okay. So reach out to the DL team. They can have a look at the area. They can talk about how you would look to split up projects. They would be able to tell you about who's in the area and talk about what they've seen in those particular areas. Are there some people that are really successful with utilizing or using DL and as an owner of the infrastructure? And are there some people that need a little bit more time? Traditionally, municipalities require more time to get agreements in place and get set up with their internal processes. So those are the areas where the DL team can absolutely guide you. They're a fantastic resource. They're there for everyone on this call to have those conversations. Please do reach out to them and they can absolutely go through that stage by stage with you to try and set you up for success, whichever route you go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another question that I will be asking. With the additional influx of tickets, is there a means to charge back the additional cost that will fall on the utility owner through the public tickets?
So if it's a locate the request for the public stream, then there is an ability to charge for those locates, no.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll head into our next question here. And that is expecting a lot of projects will now go through the public stream. How will one call deal with compliance issues that will follow and ticket dumping that has already begun?
Yeah, so again, I'm not going to talk to compliance processes and practices today. That's not my department, but I would encourage you to reach out to our compliance team to set up a call and discuss that further if you wish, or send it in an email. They would be able to best answer those questions. However, obviously, we are still seeing a lot of support for dedicated locator, and only a few of the smaller ISPs have suggested that they would utilize this. Now, that's not to say that it might change, but certainly on the larger scale, those ISPs are utilizing DL because of the timelines in which it offers and the potential struggles going into the final stretch, heading into the tail end of the delivery timelines next year. The concern of not being able to reach their goals if they use the public stream. DL is the greatest opportunity for almost all of these projects. So we're going to continue working with those ISPs, and certainly we're going to assist them in getting their DL projects up and running. As I say, we've been working on a number of the tools in the background, and we've been really seeing a lot of successes. Not every time is there a success, but we are seeing a lot more successes than we have been in previous months and years. So we expect that a number of the larger scale projects will continue using DL because of the flexibility in the delivery of the locates, the timelines of the delivery locates, and the overall control that it gives the project owner. So in that situation, I don't know if you're going to see a massive jump. I would hope not. But we will see heading into next year, and we will continue working with the industry to try and assist as best as possible. But certainly, again, the compliance side, please do reach out to compliance if you have compliance-related questions.
Thank you very much. Our next question here, will we still receive a notice of fiber to the home projects coming to warn members of the volume of locates that will be coming in?
So again, so a lot of this would depend on those doing the projects. It is a better practice for the the construction companies or the project owners to be communicating this in advance. And obviously, dedicated locator takes care of a lot of that forecasting, which isn't necessarily available as much in the public stream. So dedicated locator helps in a number of different areas for both project owner and the owners of underground infrastructure, which is why we need the assistance from the owners of the infrastructure as well to continue to move this forward. But certainly the advance notice, we provide notice when the locates are submitted to Ontario One Call. Other areas of advance notice would be coming from the project owners directly. So I wouldn't be able to comment on their practices, but it would be a best practice for all involved to be able to communicate that so the resources are available.
Thank you, Adam. What if a project owner wants to change models once the project is underway? So the example that's given is set up with DL, but not satisfied and wants to go through the public stream instead now.
So at that point, I would say that paragraph 2 has not been fulfilled because a locate has been agreed upon. So therefore, the project would continue in dedicated locator. So it would only be if you've submitted a 90-day notice, but a DLSP, sorry, has not been agreed upon, or you have not submitted a 90-day notice. So that is our understanding of the regulation.
Thank you very much. We have a bit of a longer question, so it's in 2 parts. I'll try to take my time with it. Upon notifying Ontario One Call that a project owner will be utilizing the public queue instead of DL, the first question is, could Ontario One Call disseminate the form to the affected members in the area? I'm going to pause there and let you answer that one.
Perfect. So yeah, so the responsibility for that lays on the project owner. So the project owner would have to directly communicate with the owners of the infrastructure to notify them. That wouldn't be sent from Ontario One Call.
Thank you. The second part here is there a requirement for the utility owners who have been notified to confirm receipt of the notice? And if so, who requires the confirmation?
So it would be best practice that they return and acknowledge the notice to the project owner so that they are aware that it's been received and understood. So that should be sent back to the project owner so that they are able to confirm that they've notified the appropriate parties.
Thank you. Comment here, I have noticed an ISP has been submitting in the public stream, but it should be under DL. What can I do?
So in situations like that, then that's where you would be able to file a formal complaint if you've got reason to believe that it should be part of the mandated DL use. And you can file that formal complaint with our compliance department. There's a form online. And again, the DL team can assist with any of this. But certainly that would be where you would report that. And then our compliance department would review the information.
All right, thank you very much. Our municipality has a broadband project looking to proceed under DL. We have agreed to a dedicated locator and provided mapping. If the project owner now decides to go through the public stream, are we now required to complete our own locates?
So as long as the requirements set out in the regulation are true and the project owner is able to utilize the option to use the public stream, then they have the right to do so. And at that point, it would be considered a Section 6 locate, which is a public stream locate, and it would fall under the same requirements as any other public stream locate. So you would, as the municipality, you would be required to complete those locates in the same timelines as laid out under Section 6 of our Act.
Thank you. On the next one here, what if the population changes from under the 100,000 to over the 100,000 after we have opted out, but before our project is completed?
So that's a very good question. Now, again, we're basing it on the latest census information as published by Stats Canada. So that's what we will be going on. Now, if it were to change before the end of 2025, I'm not sure when the next census information will be published, but then that would be something that we would have to take into consideration, and we would have to review that on our end. I wouldn't be able to give a definitive answer on that. We haven't sought legal advice on that particular question at this time, but certainly I'm not sure if the next census, bear in mind the regulation talks about the latest census data. I'm not sure if the next census data will be released before the end of 2025 or not.
Thank you. And what if I have parts of my broadband project that would benefit from DL and other parts that I would want to use in the public stream? So trying to be more strategic, is that a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually probably something that many of the ISPs will benefit from. Some areas will only require a few locates. You might be going into an area where it's mostly aerial. Those areas, certainly through the public stream where it's only a couple locates, only a little bit of work, those areas might be better going through the public stream. Whereas the rest where you need a lot of control over the locate delivery would be best going through the dedicated locator model. So certainly you can utilize different projects under different areas. So one project might be public stream, but it doesn't mean that all of your projects therefore have to be used in the public stream. You can still use dedicated locator for your other projects.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pause my next question just for if you could mention some housekeeping again. Just in general, will this video be posted, and do we know when this video is going to be posted?
So I don't know the exact time, but we will post it up on our YouTube channel, and we'll have a link to it. We'll look to put on our website as well. Usually it takes a couple of days for us to format the video and get it up online. But certainly if you're looking for it and you want to have a link, then again, please reach out to the DL team in the next couple of days, and they will be able to direct you in the right direction to be able to view it again.
Thank you so much. Okay, heading back into our next question. Do we know why the regulation is focused on those communities that are under the 100,000?
So it would have been part of the consultation that our ministry held, and in terms of what the requirements of stakeholders and where they're looking for flexibility, and certainly when we're looking at certain areas, maybe it's aerial infrastructure only needs a couple of locates, whatever it may be, that flexibility makes sense to the ISPs. But again, a lot of the feedback as well that we are hearing in Ontario One Call is if it's a larger, more complex project, then dedicated locator is the most efficient and cost-effective way to go about it. So that may have been taken into consideration, but I don't wish to speak for the ministry. But certainly the consultation would have been where the feedback was submitted and the regulation would have come from that feedback.
Thank you very much, Adam. Are there penalties for submitting in the public stream without submitting a notice to Ontario One Call, or even after submitting a notice to Ontario One Call, but it's still under the 90 days?
So again, potentially, but I don't want to speak about specifics on compliance action. That again would be more of a compliance directed question. However, if you have not submitted the notice or seen out the notice period under the regulation, then it would be considered mandated to use dedicated locator. So that's what you need to take into consideration. If you're mandated to use dedicated locator, you fall under Section 7 of our Act. If you submitted a notice and seen through the notice period, then you would fall under Section 6 of the Act. So obviously there are compliance tools that are available should you be in conflict with any of those. And that's what you should take into consideration there. And certainly when we talk about the regulation and this presentation today, this is our understanding of the regulation in conversation with our legal counsel. If you do have questions, I do encourage you to seek out your own legal counsel and ask those questions to them, or contact our compliance department and they can talk about certain specifics on compliance actions. But certainly that's something that I won't go into details about compliance because again, it's not my area of expertise.
Thank you very much. In this scenario, I'm at a UIO, so underground infrastructure owner, and I prefer DL because it makes our locate load more manageable. But the PO says, the project owner says, they don't want to. What can we do?
So in that situation, obviously the regulation only comes down to the project owner's decision. So in that situation, the locates would end up likely in the public stream, and you as an owner of underground infrastructure would have to fulfill your obligations under Section 6. There's no other route to putting this back into dedicated locator unless the project owner wishes to use dedicated locator.
Thank you very much. Has there been any steps towards allowing a DL project to be activated without 100%?
So it's a very good question, and certainly, again, we're trying to build our tools to avoid having to ask that question. But certainly, we are seeing greater success each and every day with the owners of underground infrastructure that have struggled to agree and therefore have put the projects into a situation where they don't necessarily have 100% agreement in the 10 business days. We're moving in the right direction. It is a bit of a slow process. This is a new model that, although dedicated locator has been around for a number of years now, the legislated version is quite different. And certainly we're only a couple of years into this, and even though we've made great strides forward in understanding how it works for everyone and bringing a lot of people on board, depending on which stakeholder group you're in, we're still finding that there's work to be done, and we certainly are focusing on that. And that's why we hold monthly webinars. We go to trade shows and conferences, and we take speaking spots. And I would encourage, again, if you want us to set up meetings externally to assist the industry with moving forward with dedicated locator, please do let us know. And that includes if you're a project owner and you want to use dedicated locator, we can set up webinars or meetings to get everyone in the room to explain what's coming up, and giving that foresight to those owners of underground infrastructure in the area can really help these projects move forward at a faster pace. And these critical public projects really do need to keep moving forward. So again, we're working in a number of different areas to try and make sure that we continue improve the delivery of dedicated locator. And I think we've actually seen a lot of successes. The feedback that we're getting is that although we're not quite at the finish line, we've made significant progress over the last couple of years, and we will continue to push until we get to the right spot for everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next one here, and we're keeping an eye on the time, but how can we provide notice to Ontario One Call of an intention to use this new regulation?
Absolutely. So reach out to the DL team. They'll be able to provide you with the notice document. Then you fill out the 5-6 lines that are on that document and send it back to Ontario One Call. Or if you've submitted a 90-day notice, that's where you would end up having to reach out to all the owners, the owners of infrastructure that are affected by the project. So reach out to the DL team and they'll be able to give you the steps again and provide you with the document.
Thank you very much. Previous to this update, the project owner was advised to utilize the DL model if the project had received a government subsidy. Is this still true, or does it no longer apply if the new criteria is met?
So it is still true. The project would be considered a mandated project for DL until the notice has been submitted to Ontario One Call and the notice period has been seen through. So this is not an exemption. I know that's been mentioned by a lot of people in the industry. This is an option of non-application, which requires the notice to be sent to us and affected parties if you've submitted your 90-day notice. And certainly we know that there will be a number of projects that are looking to go down this route. So follow those steps to make sure that you do fulfill your obligations under the regulation and legislation.
Thank you very much, Adam. That does bring us to a close here, unless something pops up in the last couple of moments here. And we have made note we're going to reach out to some of the participants today individually via our email, the dl@ontarioonecall.com. And again, if anyone wants to raise their hand, we will give the mic over to yourself. Oh, we do have a raised hand here. Oh, sorry, I was wrong about that. Here we go. Tabitha has her hand raised, so we're going to bring you onto the screen.
Good day. Hi, Adam and Cheryl.
Hi, Joe.
Really easy question, I promise. Can that form that is required if we're going to go to the public queue, can that form actually be put on the One Call website so it can be downloaded, or do we have to go directly to the DL team? That was it.
So if you go to the DL team, it's not currently on the website. But if you reach out to the DL team, they'll be able to provide it right away. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Last call for questions. Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much to everyone for attending today. Again, I encourage you to reach out to either myself or the DL team if you have any other questions, or if you'd like to set up a meeting where we can discuss this further. We would be only too happy to do so. The contact information is on the screen there. Please do reach out at any time. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.